Lesson number 3. Perspective looks. Creation of corner and frontal perspectives in Procreate. In this lesson, we will learn to look for intersecting points from ready images, as well as build a frontal and corner perspective of a place in Procreate. Create a new layer. This time its dimensions are going to be 36 cm x 21 cm, 450 dpi. Add the image where all the dimensions of the room are labeled. Pause the video and carefully study all the measurements. Zoom out the image and move it to the side. All the measurements are indicated in millimeters. The height of the room is 3 m, walls are 6 m by 5 m. Choose the color red and our pictograph brush. The first thing we'll learn is frontal perspective. Frontal perspective is a linear look perspective, when the viewer is situated parallel to the object. We will learn how to build a frontal perspective in accordance with the measurements of our room in Procreate. Turn on Edit Drawing Guide and choose 2D Grid. Create a new layer, choose the color black, rapidograph brush, turn on Drawing Assistance, and create a measuring grid. For the first wall, 3 m height and 6 m length. Take into account that every square is 0.5 m. Draw straight lines. Count your squares and double-check the exactness of the measuring grid. Meter, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And height, 1, 2, 3. Draw the other lines in black. This grid is going to serve as our workpiece, in order to figure out the measurements easier next time. The other side has the measurements 3 m x 5 m. In order to save time, duplicate the grid. Move it directly underneath with the help of magnetics and remove the extra meter with the help of the arrow and rectangle selection. Carefully double-check that the created grid is exactly as per the measurements. One grid is 3 × 6, the other is 3 × 5. Since we have two 5 m walls that are going to make it into the frontal view, we will copy the 3 by 5 wall and carefully, with the help of magnetics, move it to the side so they don't overlap. Now we will combine our grids into one layer. Turn off all the other layers, including the very bottom one with the background. Save the grids in PNG format. They will be used again for the corner perspective. Create a new layer and let's begin drawing our room. Draw a rectangle 3 m x 6 m straight by the squares. In order to not get confused with the measurements, create a new layer. Choose the color red, and let's label all the measurements. 1 square equals 0.5 m. As such, we will check the exactness of our rectangle. Now draw a horizontal line, the eye level line. Turn on Drawing Assistance. Normally this line is located at a height of 1.6 m. Measure this height using the squares. Let's search for the intersecting point. If your wall, or the rectangle, is not situated in the center, with the help of magnetics and the arrow you can move it in the right spot for you. The image with the measurements needs to be deleted. We will use a reference later. Go to Drawing Guide and choose the Perspective function. Put the dot in the center. You can change the lines of the perspective. You can make them thicker, change the color, make it more saturated or less transparent. Go to the layer with the wall outline. Turn on Drawing Assistance and draw the side walls. I will outline the first wall. I don't think you can see it very well. Turn off the drawing guide so the perspective lines don't trip us up. We get a frontal view of the room. Turn on the reference and you'll see in front of us the 6 mm wall and the side walls are 5 mm. Now we need to decide and create the measuring grid for all the walls. Go to the layer with the grids. Move the 3x5 grids to a new layer. The 3x6 grid stretch out on the front wall with the help of the arrow. Go to the layer with the other grids. Select the first grid using the rectangle selection, and using the distort tool, stretch out the grid on the 3x5 wall. Repeat the same with the other wall. Combine the layers with the grid into one. Go to the layer with the labeled measurements and double-check your work. Next, we will draw in depth our furniture. Turn off the layer with the measurements. Leave the outline of the walls and the grid. Again, add the image with the measurements. With the help of the red rapidograph brush, on the same layer, mark the length of the windows. Since we don't have their measurements, we will need to figure them out on our own. Using the rectangle selection, select the area of the room without walls. Turn on invert and delete the rest. Move the image to the bottom. Using the arrow and distort, stretch out the image along the floor area. Make sure that the points align with the corners of the floor outline. Don't rush it. The edges need to be on the same line. Add color to our walls. For that, create a new layer and choose whichever color, for example a light beige. We will overshadow the walls from our background to make it easier to draw the outline of the furniture later. If you're comfortable working on a white background, you can leave the walls as they are, or you can create a colored background. Create a new layer on top of the outline of our walls. Choose a bright color, for example red, rapidograph brush, turn on drawing assist. We'll begin raising our nightstand. Orient yourself on the flat image of the nightstand and draw lines from the points, up, one after the other, in such a way raising the nightstand and giving it depth. The height of the nightstand is 50 to 60 centimeters. Erase the extra lines. Let's pretend the nightstand will have 2 drawers. Draw the lines in the center. Draw the other nightstand similar to the first. As you can see, we don't need to count or make anything up. Choosing the right intersecting point and drawing assist does everything for us. Remove the excess lines with the eraser. Here, the most important part is to draw the outline of the furniture according to the right measurements. Later, we will save the build of the room in PNG format and we'll draw everything more detailed using the reference. Next, we will draw the bed with a different color on a new layer. In the lesson interior sketch, we will draw a designer chair using the same principle, and you'll see that the most important thing is to correctly give the edges to an object, and after that begin drawing more details to the form. As you remember, the image didn't have exact window measurements. That's why we marked the edges of the windows in red. Now it will serve as our main hint. The height from the floor to the window will be 1 m. On this level, we'll begin drawing our window. It will be 2 m in length, and the standard height is 1.5 m. Draw the window edges and the thickness of the glass. Now draw the second window. Same measurements. I use Procreate only for the color visualization. Clients ask for different perspectives, and the creation of those is tedious, and it is not exact in measurements. That's why I use RHCAD to create the 3D models if I'm working on the computer or laptop. If the model is simple enough, I use Live Home 3D on the tablet. In 10 to 15 minutes, I can create 3D models of an object along with different perspectives. However, it is possible to build in Procreate, especially if you are just beginning your journey as an interior sketcher. Using a different color, draw the table and door. You can use measurements from your own home, or those you know, to serve as examples, and practice creating different angles of rooms in Procreate. For presentation and more visual appeal of the room, we can use different colors to color the furniture, windows, and door. Fill in the glass on the window with light blue. Color the nightstand, desk, and door with dark brown. The bed can be a light color. You can also outline the rug and fill it with color. All in all, the frontal perspective is done. I'd like to show you how you can use the parquet board brush, which will also serve you as a helper when visualizing. Choose that brush, black color, and turn off all the other layers, and draw the floor with our brush. Turn on all the layers. Work with the outline, choose the arrow, zoom out the floor, and with distort stretch it out over the surface of the floor. With that, we are done with the first half of our lesson. Now we will learn about the corner perspective of this same room. Go to the top layer and create a new one. Turn off the other ones. What is a corner perspective? Corner perspective is a linear perspective in which the image of the object is viewed from an angle to the viewer and has two intersecting points. In our example, we will look at a corner where the chair is located. Turn on 2D grid and draw in black. Turn on drawing assist, with the height of the room being 3 m. Next, we'll put a dot, the eye level line. Create a new layer where we will write our measurements. In red, draw a horizontal line, and delete the previous intersecting point and put our two intersecting points on the same line. Go to the layer with the wall height. Turn on drawing assist, and draw in black our side walls. This way, our room is already on an angle. In this example, we see that one wall is 5 m and the other is 6 m. Now I will draw the edges of our walls. Go to the layer with the measurements, choose the color red and leave marks every meter according to the squares. Check the exactness of the measurement. This way we see the ends of each wall. Under the layer with the wall outline, add our hint in the form of grid lines. Delete one of the 3x5 grids, and we'll continue working with the remaining two. With distort, stretch out the 3x5 grid, making sure to hit every point. You can return to the later with the outline and using black, draw the ends of the walls. Next, return to the 3x6 grid and stretch it out with distort along the wall. Go to Settings, Drawing Guide, and turn on Perspective, and on the layer with the outline you can indicate the walls, floor and ceiling. For comfort, you can turn off the layer with the measurements. We can also turn down the layer transparency and turn off the drawing guide so the lines don't confuse us. Give color to our walls and ceiling. You can leave everything on a white background. You can erase the unnecessary lines where the wall outline is. Now we will draw the outline of our furniture. Add the image with the measurements. Using red, mark the edges of the windows. With rectangle, select the area of the room without the walls. Invert, and using the arrow remove the rest. Turn on the layers on which we are now working. Turn on Distort and stretch out the inserted image from point to point. Create a new layer on top of the wall outline layer. Choose a bright color, and begin raising the furniture in depth. First, the nightstands. Everything is just like in the first half of the lesson. The important thing to remember when learning about corner perspective is that if the horizon line is above the eye level, we will see the objects from the bottom, as they will be located above our eyes. If the object is located underneath the horizon line, we will see the top and sides of the objects that are facing us. We will not see the bottom part. The closer the intersecting points will be, the more distorted the object will look. We can outline the bed in a different color. Here, we will be able to see the thickness of the headboard. Draw that so that the bed doesn't look flat, and we won't forget to point that out when visualizing it. Now we can draw out windows. We already know the measurements are 2 x 1.5 m. Don't forget about the frames and the thickness of the glass. Erase the excess lines. That's why we drew the bed and nightstands on different layers. Fill in the color as you wish. Notice how the color fill didn't work. I had rectangle selected, but with the stylus I pointedly selected the object. When you draw a lot, you can overlook such a simple mistake and seek solutions. That's why don't rush and draw carefully. Now all that's left is to draw the outline of the floorboards. We see that we ran out of layers. Delete the unneeded ones. Create a new layer. Choose black color and the parquet brush. Reminder that you can undo an action by tapping the screen with 2 fingers. To repeat an action, 3 fingers. Turn on the layers. Go to the layer with the floorboards. Move it underneath the outline. Make it smaller, turn it a bit. Turn on Distort and Stretch. Like that, we get a room with an angle perspective. I specifically drew this room distantly in order to show how this outline can be used when visualizing. Go to the furniture layer and with the magic wand make them black. Leave the layer with the wall, furniture, and floorboards outline turned on. Turn off the rest, along with the background, and save the image as PNG. On a new canvas, add the image with the outline and we can make it bigger or move it as needed. Delete the unneeded layers or create a new canvas, and let's learn how to find intersecting points on ready interior examples. Add the image example. Zoom in. We see that we are viewing the room from an angle. That means it's a corner perspective, and there will be 2 intersecting points. For comfort, go to Canvas, and make it wider on the sides. This will help us find the exact intersecting lines. Create a new layer. Choose a bright color. We will use the walls for orientation. One wall goes to the right, the other to the left. Follow a straight line along the lines of the cupboards on top, and along the bottom line of the cupboards on the bottom. Find your first intersecting point. Follow a straight line along the ceiling, and the other line along the floor, and find the intersection. That will be our second intersecting point. Go to Edit Drawing Guide, choose Perspective and insert the 2 points. It's important that those points are on one straight line. Check yourself. Go to the layer with the image, turn down the transparency. Create a new layer. Choose color black, rapidograph brush, and draw the outline. If the lines match the image, the intersecting points were found correctly. You can decrease the layer transparency even further. Draw the table outline. The lines must match 99%. Second example. Add the second image. We see that we're looking right at the interior. That means this is a frontal perspective and there will only be one intersecting point. The ceiling beams will serve as our aids in finding the intersection point. Turn down the layer transparency. Choose a bright color and follow a straight line along the ceiling beam. Then the next line along the beam, but from the other side of the room. Go to Edit Drawing Guide. Delete the previous point and put the new one in the center. Check yourself. Create a new layer. Black color, rapidograph brush, drawing assist, and begin drawing the outline of the room. Begin with the beams. The objective of this lesson is to create a frontal perspective of a room according to the given measurements. To create a corner perspective, also, use ready images to find intersecting points.